welcome back, everybody. Now, if you recall last week, we saw the growing evil and the wickedness of humans. God saw how great the wickedness of human race had become on the earth, and that every thought of the human heart was downright evil, all the time. So let's start reading where we left off, in Genesis 6, 9 through 22. This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, I'm going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I'm surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of gopher wood. This is how you are to build the ark. The ark is to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, 30 cubits high. Make a roof for it, leaving below the roof an opening 1 cubit high all around. Put a door on the side of the ark and make lower, middle, and upper decks. I'm going to bring floodwaters to the earth to destroy all life under the heavens. Every creature that has the breath of life in it, everything on earth will perish. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you will enter the ark, you and your sons, and your wife and your sons' wives. You're to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. 2 of every kind of bird, of every kind of animal, and of every kind of creature that moves along the ground will come to you and be kept alive. You're to take every kind of food that is to be eaten and stored away as food for you and them. Noah did everything as God commanded him. So exactly what's the deeper meaning to this story? Well, let me ask you something first. Do you really trust God? It's a question that many of us might answer with a confident yes, without really stopping to think about it. But let's be honest. How often do we find ourselves faced with situations that challenge that trust? It's easy to say that we trust when things are going smoothly. But what happens when God asks us to do something that seems difficult, uncomfortable, or downright bizarre? That's when we get into the heart of the matter. That's Genesis 6, 9 through 22. A great illustration of deep trust in God comes from that story of Noah. Imagine this. God tells Noah to build this gigantic ark out of gopher wood. Now, folks back then probably knew what that was, but we don't have that now. What the heck is that? Well, a friend of mine said he knew the answer. Says, imagine Noah and his boys looking over the plans for this massive ship. Wow, says Shem, that's going to take a lot of material. Japheth stands up all distinguished like, and he announces, well, somebody's going to have to go for wood. Let's get back to the real story. We need to consider what the deal was with Noah. He was living in the desert. The idea of a flood was anything but reasonable. Add to that, he had to construct a boat longer than a football field. It must have felt terribly impossible. And let's not forget the instruction to gather 2 of every animal onto this massive ark. Can you imagine trying to wrangle all those creatures? Sounds crazy, right? But what's really mind-blowing is that God informs Noah that everyone else on earth will perish, leaving only him and his family to survive. Now that had to be terrifying and heartbreaking. He had to grapple with the loss of everyone he knew. Yet in the midst of the chaotic and frightening instructions from God, Noah's response was nothing short of extraordinary. The Bible tells us that Noah did everything just as God commanded him. Now that's powerful. Among all those opportunities to doubt or resist, Noah chose to trust and obey. Now let's take this a step further. Our everyday choices reflect our level of trust in God. When we feel that tug of our heart to make changes, to take bold steps, Those choices often reveal how much we're willing to rely on God. Sometimes what God calls us to do just doesn't seem logical or practical. It can push us out of our comfort zone. However, despite the challenges, we can find comfort in knowing that every step God nudges us to take has a purpose. He's always got a plan, whether we can see it or not. So I pose that question to you again. Do you really trust Him? Let's take a moment to reflect. Think about one area of your life where you struggle to place your trust in God. Is it your family, your relationships, money matters, your health, or perhaps your career? It's essential to recognize those areas that we hold back, to ask ourselves what God might be prompting us to do that requires complete faith in Him. Once you've identified that area, consider what actions you can take today to start moving in faith. Could be something small like a conversation you need to have, or a decision you've been hesitating to make. The important thing is to start taking steps toward trusting God more deeply. Just like Noah did, he faced the ridicule of people around him, challenging his understanding of the world. But he pressed on, fully convinced that God had a grand plan in play. This journey of trust isn't just about monumental decisions. It's woven into our daily lives. Think about those little moments where we could use God's help. Recognizing these opportunities allows us to practice our trust in tangible, everyday ways. To sum it all up, trust requires active participation on our part. It's about making conscious choices that align with what we believe about God's character. When we truly embrace the idea that He is sovereign and has our best interest in heart, we can take courageous steps, even in uncharted territory. So go ahead and take that leap of faith. It's God's plan that He will provide everything you need. Trust in the Lord like Noah. Okay, now next week we'll get into chapter 7 as we follow Noah and his family on this terrifying and incredible journey.